Welcome back, everybody. It's time to get back under the hood with the Motor Medics.
866-594-4150 from the Autotempest.com studios. All the cars, one search. This is the Under the Hood Show. Autotempest.com/hoodie. We were just having an off-air conversation that is very relevant to this time of year, Shannon.
Air conditioning season is upon us. Well, our part of the world is teasing us. I think we've had like 3 days that we could have used air conditioning and really needed it. Otherwise, you could probably roll the windows down.
See, we already... how quickly we forget. We've already had like 4 90-degree days. And then since then, we've had 60-degree days.
It's just been crazy weather.
Mm-hmm.
But you know what? We just live here.
Yeah, what are you going to do?
But air conditioning season's upon us, and if you haven't worked on your air conditioning in a while and it hasn't been working, one of the things that we run into is minivans of different brands, but mainly
Suburbans, vans.
Yeah.
You know what it is.
Things with rear air.
Yeah.
You need your air conditioner fixed, and then you realize, oh no, it's not that bad. I don't need to get it fixed. I mean, eventually.
But some of that can be precipitated by the price that you find out it's going to cost to fix it.
Then it gets hot, and you're like, oh, I need to get this fixed.
So what we're talking about
is, the cheaper the repair is.
That's right. That's a good point.
But what we're talking about is the rear air conditioning systems on some of these vehicles, and we probably see this more in the upper Midwest and the Rust Belt states, where the lines that run to the back of the vehicle, either the lines themselves will corrode out, or where the lines make their bend up into the body and they're exposed a little bit right there, right at that connection, they'll get corroded, right at the base of the evaporator itself. And so it's not just a line that you need to repair, it's actually the rear evaporator that gets just corroded, and you can't keep the refrigerant in the system. It's porous.
Why does it happen in the rear more commonly?
Catches all the road grime and crud. And,
just where it is?
Yeah.
By being backward.
They should have engineered it a little bit better to protect it.
Yeah.
They just missed, I think, on the engineering, thinking of the extreme climate that they would be in. So, like, producer Doug, he's got a 2014 Grand Caravan?
Yeah.
Something like that, or Town & Country?
Something like that.
And so his rear air has got the problem. He's got a evaporator. It's the evaporator core on his that's corroded out right where it comes through the floor to connect to the lines that go back there. So he's got a choice that is available because of our friends at Dorman Products. There is a blockout kit you can buy.
Takes off the rear lines, put 2 caps on there.
Yeah, and so you lose your rear air conditioning, and like Russ was saying during the break when we were talking about it, you can still have your fan to circulate some air. You're probably not going to be real happy when we get our most hot and humid days coming up, because you're not going to have that extra capacity to take the humidity out of the air and help cool it down. But as far as typical driver comfort, you're going to be fine, because the air conditioning is usually blowing on you, and if it can get that moisture taken out of the air and blow on you, it usually feels just fine. But that would be a good reason, if your windows aren't tinted, to get the windows tinted.
Sure.
Keep the sunlight out, and just make sure you keep that cabin shaded as much as you can so it doesn't get all heated up. But that can change a repair on that air conditioning from $2,000 to $3,000, maybe more in some cases, and make it maybe a $500 to a $700 repair, and still keep your air conditioning working. But if you don't do something like that, you cannot seal up the system and have any air conditioning.
Can I put a plastic between, like, my windows in the winter? Just get the plastic and use the hairdryer, make it tight so I...
just behind you?
Yeah, just put a little capsule in the front that stays cool.
Sure.
Okay. Guess it depends on if you're going to have passengers or not. You wouldn't want to do that if you
maybe you're like an Uber driver or a Lyft driver.
There you go.
Maybe you're okay with the partition.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, good idea.
Because they can still get in the side doors.
I think it depends how old your kids are.
Pretend it's a limo, Chris. Tell your kids it's a limo.
Yeah.
So just buy one of them dividers like the cops have, metal divider, and then just panel it with plexiglass.
Yep, that's the thing.
So you can still see back there, but you got inclusion for the cool temperatures, so your guests are hot as can be. And you're cool.
The plexiglass you got to be careful with. We put plexiglass in our work vans a few years ago in the radio station, and they installed it wrong. so it was completely reflective.
Oh,
yeah.
100%
When you look in the mirror and-
you looked in the mirror and you could see out the front in the rearview mirror, and it was
You
impossible.
remember our cheap window tint of the 80s, Shannon? You'd put them on the back window of
Yes.
a car or truck, and you look in the mirror, you're like, good, there's a car behind me. No, it's coming in front of me.
Yeah.
Now they don't.
Oh, the
do that.
technology on that's gotten so
Oh.
much better. It's crazy. But no, that's just something to consider if you're dealing with one of those vans with air conditioning problems in the rear air conditioning. Check with Dorman Products. Go to their website and see if there's a block-off kit available. And if there is, your technician probably knows about it. But if they don't, tell them about it.
If you got a kid, 4 years old, they can be a little warm and sweaty. That's fine. 14, you kind of got to cool them down. You don't want a sweaty.
They get a little gamey.
Yeah, you don't want that. Let's talk to Larry in Kentucky. Larry, you're on the End of the Hood Show. What can we do for you?
Thank you for my call. 2000 Chevy 3500 454 Vortex. Bought it brand new. It's got 100,000 miles on it. It's got two gas tanks on it, one in the front, one in the rear there on both sides. And it all just, there's no separate valves or nothing splitting them. The problem I'm having is I used to run 300 miles on both tanks. Now then, I can fill them both plumb full, run 200 miles. It sucks out, burns out all the front tank, but it's not pulling the back tank out. Pull back in, fill up the front tank, a whole 20-some gallon, about 20 gallon. Back tank, maybe 2 gallon. So it's not pulling gas out of the back, rear tank for some reason. I have had, this is the third fuel pump I've put on this truck over the years, and I don't know how that works to get the gas out of the back tank to the front. Is that on a vacuum, or how does that work?
No, that you've actually got a pump back there. There's a
Transfer
equalization module in there and a pump in the back that's supposed to take the fuel out of that tank and put it in the other one so you can burn it. And then it's looking at the level on the front. It's been a long time since we worked on one of those, but
So it pulls from one tank into the other tank, not directly in? Okay.
yeah. So I put I was working on a truck I had from the 80s, an old square body, and I had converted it. I put a 5.3 in it and got it all converted, and I put that tank system in so that I could fill up one tank and then transfer it over. And I got everything connected, and then I sold the truck before I even really drove it, but I had all the parts done. So what I did is I had a transfer tube on the top. You'd fill the tank up, it'd fill both tanks, and then the gas gauge, your fuel gauge, was running off the driver's side, the left tank, and that's where the reading would come from. But the right tank would continuously keep that left tank full until it was empty, and then it would start emptying the driver's tank. So the right tank, even though my gauge read full, I could drive, say, 150 miles on it and then go refill that tank, and it'd still say full until it was empty and the driver's tank started dropping. But with yours, it's the rear tank. So it's the same thing, but it's in the rear. When that gets down to close to empty, then it starts running off the front, and it just switches the pumps. It's either turning one pump on or the other pump on, and then it's got a backflow valve built into it. So your pump may have failed in that rear tank, or the sending unit may have failed. You're looking at, well, that's a 2000, so we're talking about a
22 years.
22, 23-year-old system. If you've replaced the front pump, but you've never replaced the back pump, it may be what's going on. It may, if you say you're down just a couple gallons each time, it shouldn't pull it out of there, but it may be running slow enough that it's moving some fuel.
Yeah.
It can be tested.
If you're going down the road and you get 200 miles and that front tank full's empty, it'll shut down, and it'll still idle, but as soon as you give it any gas, it starts missing.
Yeah.
Because it's not getting enough fuel. It's just getting enough fuel to run it 1,500 RPMs is all that's running. But if you leave it sitting a while, it'll finally pull some of that out of that back tank, but it's not pulling it very fast if it does.
Yeah, I think your pump may be just really weak in the back.
Yeah, and that's all factory. It's come out of the factory that way.
Yep.
So, yeah. Well, sounds like I need to get a mechanic to check my rear.
They can
Fuel
check that
pump.
pressure for sure and see what's going on. Now, it's a low pressure in the back, and the front one's a high pressure. The back one's just a transfer pump, compared to the front.
Larry, thanks very much for the call. Good luck. 866-594-4150. What's caught your attention in the automotive world?
Just thought of something. Russ, you can correct me here if I get this wrong or say it wrong, because I probably will. But when they had those big blocks in those 454s and the old body style like that, they used to put a sticker on the valve cover for what engine plant they were built in.
Yeah,
Tonawanda. We're dismantling a C8 Corvette in the shop right now
Okay.
for one to be parted out. And on the valve cover, it's got Chevy 1 and Tonawanda engine plant on the valve cover on that new C8 Corvette. And I saw that, and when he called in with that 454, it made me think of that. That I remember seeing those stickers on those Vortec 454s back in the day. Or was it a little bit older than that they had those?
Well, they've had them for a long time. Like they had the Cleveland motors on the Ford were Cleveland, Ohio.
Yep.
And then
Windsor, Ontario.
Windsor, Ontario, across the bridge or tunnel to Canada.
Yeah, the engine plant has came into play quite a bit on engine recognition for people, especially the enthusiasts. But the 351 thing was really a big one back in the day with Ford, because you'd have the 351 Windsor, you had the 351 Cleveland, and then the 351 modified. That was.
But there weren't the 351 400 modified. There really wasn't any. I don't even know why there was such a hype about it. Really, it only identified what kind of motor it was, because you knew if you had a Cleveland, you had the big engine.
Mm-hmm.
It could have been that it was made in Sandusky, Ohio, if they made it there, and then that would have indicated that it was bigger. Sioux Falls, I've got the Sioux Falls engine. They only make big blocks in Sioux Falls. So that was cool about it, and a lot of people really only knew. I knew some people who didn't know crap about cars, and they said, well, I don't know, it's got a Cleveland in it, whatever. Dad says it's got a Cleveland. I don't know what that means. Oh, you got the big block in there.
Yeah.
So
it's been a long time since I've looked under.
I haven't seen an identifier
under the
on an
bonnet
engine
on a new car.
lately.
Yes, you said bonnet.
Yeah, I heard that.
Well, it's a mid-engine car, so we got to go different.
How many, is this the first one you guys have dismantled?
Yes, it is. Yep.
Anything in it catch your eye? Have you guys talked about? Because I know when you guys,
everything has caught my eye.
Everything is changing so much in cars. Let's just go with gasoline cars. Gasoline cars are getting crazy with the technology and stuff. And that really, on a C8 Corvette, I would have to say that falls just the look of it, the performance of it. It's a supercar. It can be a budget-friendly supercar compared to what they are. You can get in for $70,000, which is comparable to a really loaded Camaro. It's a supercar.
It's pretty
or
crazy.
You can spend a whole lot more if you want to get really fancy.
The thing that caught my eye, though, just in specifics, we were looking at this one, and Greg, the inventory specialist, and myself, and just kind of walking around it, looking at it, and he says, got two ABS pumps on it. And so we're looking there, I'm like, no, yeah. And we're just kind of staring at this other pump that's down there, and I was looking at it, and I'm like, I don't think that's an ABS pump. And there we had the window sticker for the car that was still with it, so we were looking at it. And this vehicle had the option for raising the front bumper height at coordinated GPS points.
Right. Yep.
And so this pump was a leveling pump that was hooked to the front struts, which were magnetic ride struts also. The front struts are crazy expensive, but they've got a pump built into them, so you can mark up to how many thousand GPS points, and so it'll automatically raise the front bumper of the car if you know you're going to go into a place that has a low clearance, like if your driveway was sloped or something like that.
You live at a condo with a parking ramp.
Yeah, and
Right.
that's what that extra pump was for. But it looked a lot like an ABS pump. And so we're just noticing all kinds of little things on these cars as we take them apart.
We're going to take a break. When we come back, we want to hear from you on the Under the Hood Show. 866-594-4150. 866-594-4150. From the Autotempest.com studios, all the cars, one search. This is the Under the Hood Show. And at some point during the show, we'll give away a hoodie to a caller, thanks to our friends at Universal Technical Institute.
It could be you. UTI.edu. Oh, see how I did that?
Yeah,
oh,
that was
yeah.
nice.
But no, it could be you.
866-594-4150, but you need a call. You got to
Yeah.
have a question.
Yep.
It's not just
You
a
could win
call-in win like when you're a kid. You called 100 times. This is,
Right.
we want you to have a question.
It's got to be a real question.
And the question can't be, can I have a hoodie?
Did you ever win anything on the radio when you were a kid?
Yeah, not a lot, but I did
Okay.
win something.
All right.
Speaking of win something, my father-in-law just won something.
What did you win?
Is it car related? It has to be car related. You know, this is a car show.
He won a 2022 Mustang EcoBoost Premium Convertible
All right, that's car related.
at the casino in
Yeah.
Wagner, South Dakota, Fort Randall Casino.
Yeah, that's car related, I think.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Wow.
We were sitting on the couch and we get a text from Tammy's, my wife's mom, and says, "Hey, Roger won a car." And we're like, "Yeah, right." Mm-hmm. And so the next thing she knows, she sends a picture of him holding an envelope that says "car."
Wow.
And
Car.
he had picked the envelope that said "car,"
Wow.
and he won a car. Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry.
Yeah,
I don't know where that popped out of my head at, but that's
That's cool. I don't think I've ever. I can't even vaguely remember anybody I've ever known that's won a car.
I have relative. I have parents on
know.
both sides of the family that have won cars.
Yeah.
Well,
I-
we gave away a car for the radio show here one
Yeah.
time when we did the Resurrected Ride.
We gave away
But
a
I mean, like,
number of cars.
Yeah, I'm talking about like somebody who's won, a car like that. I guess that technically counts, doesn't it?
Yeah,
We
kinda.
gave away a few.
But I mean, I could.
4 or
I mean,
5?
I haven't won a car, but I have my father-in-law's won a car, and my mother's won a car,
Yeah.
and
Oh,
both pretty nice cars.
for sure.
My mom won a ZR1 Corvette.
Yeah, that's.
And my father-
oh, I do know somebody who's won a
Yes,
car.
yes,
She
you
won a
do.
car.
I was when he said that, I was
That's a
thinking,
big time car there.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you're listening and you're ever bored, just go to YouTube, and while you're looking at the Under the Hood show, just jump off for a second and go to ZR1 Corvette Winter Excitement. And that video was taken in 2010 or 11, and it's a video of my mom running around our business at that time, letting everybody know that she had just won a car. And she was so excited, and our manager, Benji, followed her around with a camera. And, she didn't know she was in. She was so excited, but as you would be. That was
Right.
a $125,000
should be.
car.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then they had to pay the tax.
Ooh.
They said, bring a check for, I can't remember what it was, just about $40,000.
Yeah.
And you can pick up your car. And if you didn't bring your check with for the taxes, they wouldn't give you the car.
We
'cause-
have given prizes away where the person just had to not accept it.
Yeah.
Because the taxes, the gift tax just.
You'd think
you
you'd
can't
be
do-
able to figure that out.
Yeah.
Just go to
Probably get a loan.
go to a
depending.
bank and say, you know what, I just want a car, and then they'd be saying, yeah, right.
Right.
We get people in here every day say they want a car and they got to send money to somebody. that happened because my mom went to the bank to get the money, and this is like I said, well, almost 10 years ago, and my mom's smart. She's on top of things, but the banker was saying, yeah, right. You
Yeah.
need this money for a car. And she questioned giving her the
That's
money.
awful cheap for a Corvette.
Well, they questioned giving her the money because they
Sure.
thought she was getting took in a scam.
Oh, sure.
They thought that, this tax money. Yeah, right. You're going to give them tax money. You're never going to see this car.
Well, it's coming from this place called General Motors. Are they okay?
Yeah, I'm going to Bowling Green to the Corvette Museum to pick it up.
Right.
The guy wants to meet me in the parking lot. Prince somebody.
He's here. He's here. It's Santa.
So Universal Technical Institute.
Yeah, UTI.edu. We had a. I've had people ask me questions about lately now about what do they teach? What can I learn about electric cars? What can I learn about gas cars? What can I learn about hybrids? Do they do hydrogen stuff? Well, you know what? They do all sorts of stuff there. And the best way to find out everything they do is just go to UTI.edu. It's an educational website, hence the edu. But they will show you what they do. They've got videos there. They got photos there. They've got things about their classes there. They've got things about their economical assistance. Is that the way to? Why am I losing my
Economic
mind?
assistance,
There you go. Financial
Tuition
aid.
assistance.
Cha-ching.
There you go.
They've got all that stuff there, and it can really help you out in a career path. So check it out today. UTI.edu.
866-594-4150. Let's talk to Brian. You're on the Under the Hood show. Brian, what can we do for you?
Hey guys, love your show, man.
Thank you.
So I got, I have a construction company, so I got some work trucks. I got a 2013 Sierra 3/4 ton 2500 HD. It's Got a 6-liter in it. And of course, I have a snow blade on the front of this thing. So anyway, I'm mystified because the steering has gotten really stiff. I mean, it acts like the power steering pump is not functioning properly. And so I've gone through a number of things. We do most of our own maintenance. And normally if I've had a problem with the front end, had so many trucks with snow blades, they'll get loose, not tight. And so, you know, I've checked the power steering pump is working fine. I got no bubbles in the fluid. There's no whining to it. Anyway, it finally quit doing it. And yesterday, I'm from Sioux Falls here, so we've had a lot of tree damage, and we've been working on trees. And I had to put this thing in 4-wheel drive again to back a boom in. And now it's stiff again. So I'm thinking, is it possible that, I don't remember the name of the actuator on the front differential, is that stuck maybe?
I've got a couple theories going on here in my head. I just want to ask one more question, just to make sure. Any problem whatsoever with the brakes? Do the brakes feel normal yet?
They seem to feel normal. I haven't taken the time to pull the wheels off and check.
No. I just wonder if you had any significantly different pedal feel at all, because there's a hydraulic system. If the hydraulic system was failing, you'd probably have problems with your brakes too, because I believe that truck has a hydro boost on it, not just a vacuum assist, and it would affect your braking also. So if your braking is good and you feel like the hydraulics are not compromised, then you get into, do I have a mechanical binding, which could be related to a few things, or is there electronic problem where they have variable assist steering in those trucks that is designed to make it easier to steer in parking lots and harder to steer when you're bending a corner on the highway at highway speed. And that is a pressure sensor that is in the line, and then they've got a small valve that can control the pressure based on different inputs that it gets. And so I wonder if that system is not working right, Russ. Is that a possibility?
That was my first thought. If it's hard to steer when you're stopped, just sitting parked and you got it in drive and you're trying to turn the wheel back and forth, and it was tight to turn, and then it got better for a while, and then it went back again, then I'm kind of eliminating my thought of ball joints and tie rod ends and things like that could make it stiff just sitting there, because it's not going to go from really tight to back to loose normal again and then back to tight if it's going to be a mechanical rusted up part. But it can do that for sure with that variable assist. So there should be a solenoid on the back of the power steering pump in order to operate that and give you more assist on those. Some use it on the rack. If they've got rack and pinion steering, it's right there where the pressure line goes into the rack. If it's the gearbox, then it's on the back of the pump.
Yeah, and he's got a gearbox set up, so they're on the back of the pump, and then there's a sensor on the base of the steering column that's also associated with that system too.
Yep, and that'll throw a code. It won't light up on your dash, but it'll give you a code that you can read with a scan tool in the system.
So that's something else to consider if your brain hasn't got that far yet. That's something you could put some energy into and research, and you might find a culprit.
I'm trying to remember on that. If it's electronic wise and it's external from the solenoid, some of those you can unplug the solenoid and it'll go to full assist. But if you have a failed solenoid, it won't, because the solenoid's just bad.
And just to take your question that I think you were going to ask, with that four-wheel drive system in that truck, with the independent front suspension setup that it has, you should still be able to turn the wheels just as easily if you're not moving, whether you're in four-wheel drive or not in four-wheel drive. It's not going to affect that. Now, if you were going to get binding while you're turning the corner or that sort of a thing, that'd be a different story. But it should not be affected by whether it is in four-wheel drive or not in four-wheel drive in that case.
So is it just coincidence that it finally felt normal for about a week here, and then I put it in four-wheel drive, and now all of a sudden I'm back to it's just stiffer than snot again? I mean, it just...
When it's in four-wheel drive compared to two-wheel drive, the steering assist is different. So if you have, it's made to be that way on purpose. So if you have a solenoid that's failing and it went into the low assist mode and stuck there when you went from four-wheel drive to no four-wheel drive or back to high assist, that could have caused that to act up, because it was a drastic change for it. But I would really look, if I'd be really looking towards that electronic system first as one of the culprits.
You know what, Russ? He wins a hoodie.
He does win a hoodie.
So when he gets out and he starts getting close to snowblade season again, you're working on the snowblade, putting it on because you're getting close to winter.
That's right.
Or else it can be the layer. The hoodie can be a layer. We prefer them to be wore on the outside, just for particular reasons.
Right.
So just get a bigger size.
We'd
Order the next
rather have it
size
on the
up.
outside, not as a layer. Should have put the logo on the hood.
That's right. We should get patches that you have to put on your outer jacket too.
Because there is a small advertising thing involved here.
Right.
But
All right, Brian.
they're great hoodies, though.
I'm going to put you on hold, and we're going to get your information there to get you a hoodie, and then I'm going to go over here, and what am I going to do? I cannot answer that one. I cannot.
He's on the
think.
phone. Maybe
He's on the wrong. He's on the wrong Brian because our line 2
We had two Bryans.
is also a Brian.
Oh, then I guess that it might be two people getting.
Uh-oh.
We'll see what Doug does.
I'm just gonna walk right over the
No,
booth.
Doug's
and tell
pretty.
him.
Doug's a pretty
you got
smart
it?
guy. He I think he's on this. I think he's got it.
Well, we'll take a break.
Yeah, I think he's got
They
it.
can
Well,
both
this-
have
oh.
one.
That was confusing.
Let's see what he does.
We'll
I'm
take
kinda
a break
curious.
here. We'll come back. We want to hear from you. 866-594-4150. You're listening to the Under the Hood Show.
Make a radio appointment each week to hear the Nordstrom's Under the Hood Show.
866-594-4150 from the Autotempest.com studios. All the cars, one search, Autotempest.com/hoodie. This is the Under the Hood Show. There are some other options, too, when we talk about air conditioning that you can do yourself, right?
There is. So we've got, and it can be good and bad because I've got people coming into our shop now saying, Russ, my AC's not working. I need help. What do I do? We give them some options, and then they tell me, well, I've already put 4 cans of this do-it-yourself-at-home AC system stuff in it, and I put it in, and it works 2 days, and then I put it in because I want to take a trip, and it works a day, and then I put some more in. I'm like, no, stop.
I considered it because I still have like half a can from last year.
Well,
For the element?
Yeah.
if you know you have a mechanical problem or a major leak, that is a bad idea. If you've got a system that's a little weak because it's got some age on it and it's starting to lose some of its cooling, it can be a fine idea. Our partners, AC Avalanche, have a good product with a gauge on it. I got one right here in front of us in the studio, kind of. It's producer Doug's giving it the point right now. That product works really
Glad you
well.
said that right.
But all these products are made for intentional uses. You don't just want to keep dumping it in because, one, you're extremely polluting the environment. If you're just going to dump one of these cans out every day or two, that's bad. You want to fix it because eventually you'll dump all the oil out of the system. Now, they do contain some oils and things like that, but still, you don't know how much you're getting in there as far as oil, how much is coming out. You don't know moisture getting in the system. If air is coming out, air is getting in. Everything has a specific purpose. So if you've got one that's just not cooling as well as it did before, sure, AC Avalanche, great product. You can do it yourself at home, save yourself a ton of money. Follow the directions, go to their website, look at their videos on YouTube. Perfect. But if you've got a giant hole in the system, you still need to go in and get the proper AC repair done. I've even seen some people that go as far as they get a quote for a very expensive AC repair. Let's say it's $3,500. They've got a vehicle that had what they call a catastrophic failure. They've run it low. They've got a compressor that burned up. There's metal in the system. They do a compressor, a condenser, a dryer, accumulator, expansion valve, line set. Maybe it's front and rear, the whole bit. They put the whole thing on and they go, now what do? I got to recharge this thing. So they vacuum it down and then they charge it themselves. So there's things that can be done, but the biggest thing is the worst thing that can happen. The biggest problem or I should say the biggest hurdle to overcome, not the worst thing that can happen, is air in the system. If you got a system that contains a ton of air, because during the winter the seal shrunk, the refrigerant came out, air came in, now it's sealed up because it's over 30 degrees or whatever again. You can't put refrigerant in on top of that air. You've got to get the air out first, which requires a an evacuation vacuum down procedure. So just follow the directions, read their things. If before you try a product, go to YouTube, look at it. We would suggest using the AC Avalanche, and when you do that, make sure you look at their videos so you're familiar with the product. Watching videos is so much easier to learn than to just start putting stuff in without.
I did it last year on I have that 99 Trans Am.
Yeah.
That has a couple times been low, and we've had to bring it into the shop and top it off. And when we got our partnership with them, I said, hey, I'm going to give this a try. So I did that. I watched the videos. I hooked it up. I put the can into it as much as I needed by the gauge, and that system has remained charged. Now, I haven't taken it out this year. I'm really eager to take it out this year and see if it made it through the storage season. But so far, so good on my report on that, and I did it myself right outside the garage.
See, and it's perfect for those cars like yours, Shannon, where it's not leaking in the winter. When it's cold, the seals aren't shrinking. You're not losing pressure and then getting air back into it and contaminating it. While yours is running under high pressure, you get some seepage from lines, very slight because you're only down maybe a quarter pound, half a pound over a couple years. So at that point, you don't have any air in the system, so you're adding to it, and it's perfect for those things.
I find myself not wanting to watch the whole YouTube video, no matter how long it is. I'm not going to watch a 27-minute video for sure.
Or a
10 minutes,
50-second one?
10 minutes, I'll watch 6 minutes of. If it's 6 minutes, I'll watch 4 minutes. And if it's 3 minutes, I'm just like, oh, I get it now after a minute.
I listened to you, Chris, and on our videos we put on our own YouTube website on how to reset oil change things, I start them off like this. Okay, here's the car. You saw it in the description. Push this button, turn the switch, blah, 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 blah. You're done. And in 10 seconds, they know what to do. And then I say, okay, so if you want a little longer one, if you missed any of this, here I'm going to repeat it again slowly. So people are saying, I love that. It was right and to the point. But other people said, I'm glad you went into detail because I had a little trouble with it.
Some people want the confirmation of all the details. I think that's perfect for us.
Just give them what they want, and they can go if they want to, or they can stay.
Oh, I know, and I've went to so many videos, and you guys have talked about it, that it's, okay, this is going to be the one that's going to help me. And I watched the whole thing, and it didn't help me at all. I hate that.
Or they didn't even talk about the subject in the title.
They clickbaited me.
866-594-4150. Let's talk to Sandy. You're on the Under the Hood Show. Sandy, what can we do for you?
Well, you guys were talking here earlier about people winning cars.
Mm-hmm.
And way back in, I want to say about 67, 66, I can't remember exactly the year. But there was a jewelry store downtown called Horwitz.
Yeah.
And they would give away a car at Christmas time. You'd buy jewelry or whatever, and they'd give you so many tickets, and you'd sign the ticket, drop it in the box. And my mom and dad won the car that year.
What kind of car did they win?
A Chevy.
Oh,
What kind is there?
Well, there's different
Well, I
types of
love it.
Chevys. There's a make and a model. I was just trying to see if you.
Not so many back then.
It was I think it was a Biscayne back then.
Oh, cool. That is
nice.
cool.
Yeah.
That is neat. That's a neat story.
Yeah.
How old were you at the time? I mean, was it cool to you? My
I
question
was
is.
married.
Oh, okay.
I was probably 19, 20, 21.
Okay. I just wanted to see if
Something like that.
the car they won was cool enough for their kid, but it didn't matter to you.
No, I wasn't around. My younger brother was, so he thought that was pretty nice to drive in a brand new car.
That's cool. Sandy, thanks very much for the call.
Look at all the models of cars now. Let's go back to let's say 1965. 64. Let's go 64. We think about car models. Okay, we've got Corvair, Corvette, Biscayne, Bel Air. Was that 60?
That was a
no,
package.
Bel Air. Was there
Impala,
yeah.
Chevelle. Would have been
Well,
your
there was
base
Chevelle.
models. Yeah.
No Camaro yet.
No, there was Nova.
The Nova 2, right?
Yeah,
Or
Chevy
no-
2 and Nova were in that era there.
And we're talking about cars, not trucks. But now, you look at, they've dumped a lot of models. But if we go back just 5 years, we had all these cars. And it just, every year I'm just thinking, boy, couldn't they sell more if they just knocked down the... Speaking of cars.
Now they're bringing the old names back.
I think it's the name. I'm not going to buy a CS525, but I'll buy an Eldorado.
So we were talking about cars and how they're in shortage and things like this.
Uh-huh.
Things may be changing now. I was just telling Shannon, I just got back from a trip from Dallas, and when I got off the plane at Christmas, I had a tough time getting a rental car. The place was bare. I mean, it was like, hello, nobody here. This time when I went down there, it was full. The parking garage was full of cars. There were lots of people picking up cars, and I wasn't like early. I mean, this was Saturday, so it was going into Memorial Day weekend. And then outside in the overflow where the parking normally is, to check in cars and stuff, it was full. There must have been 1,000 brand new cars out there, stickers on them, coming in, with those big white tags where they were going to bring them into the rental fleet. Now, there were a lot of older cars. I mean, I was seeing 2- and 3-year-old cars in the rental fleet inside, so I'm thinking these car companies must have figured out, let's get all the cars we can get, probably pulling a ton of them off the used car market if they were not very old and lower miles, drew all those cars in, and then now they're getting the new ones in. They'll probably get some priority because they've got the big contracts to get them in. I'll bet we're going to see some of those start to hit the used car market coming up pretty quickly here because they had things, they put the tags back on the key rings now that says, like our cars, buy our cars. They used to have those. They didn't have those at Christmas time when I was there.
Is that that's a good thing for the consumer? Is that a good thing for...
So when you see a number one selling car, like Ford Taurus, number one car in America, or Impala, a lot of times that's because the Impala, municipal fleets like police, rental car fleets, same way with Taurus and things like that, a lot of times that drives it because of so many thousands of them that are purchased all at once for those in certain months. So yeah, if you see those cars get there, rental cars... We've talked about it before. You want a good car? Buy a rental car that's a year old,
That'll do it for this hour of the Under the Hood Show. Hour 2 is coming up. 866-594-4150. The Under the Hood Show is brought to you by Sturdivant's.
You're listening to the Nordstrom's Under the Hood Show with the Motor Medics, Shannon Nordstrom and Russ the Super Tech Evans. Shannon is an ASE engine and parts specialist, and Russ is an ASE Master Certified Technician with extensive factory drivability training. Join the Motor Medics for fun and free automotive advice with real-world solutions to everyday automotive problems. The Under the Hood Show is heard weekly on this and other great radio stations across the U.S. Find out how you can participate in the show by visiting underthehoodshow.com.
With Russ Evans, this is Shannon Nordstrom, thanking you for tuning in to the Nordstrom's Under the Hood Show. Have a great day, and remember, PTLA.
The opinions heard on this program, based on the many years of experience of Russ and Shannon, are offered for entertainment value only and as a guide to your repair needs. No claim to repair or cause is given or implied. Always consult with your own certified technician and follow all safety procedures before attempting any repair. To be a part of the show, call 866-594-4150. Under the Hood is produced by Prairie House Productions. All content is the property of Nordstrom's Automotive Incorporated and may not be used without our permission. Copyright Nordstrom's Automotive, Inc. Now, let's go under the hood with the Nordstrom's Motor Medics.
Welcome to the Under the Hood Show from the Autotempest.com studios. All the cars, one search. This is the Under the Hood Show. Russ Evans is here to answer your automotive questions.
Thanks for joining us under the hood.
Shannon Nordstrom is here to do the same.
Hey, welcome, Hoodies. Thanks for tuning in so we can help you tune up.
I'm Chris Carter here to answer your calls at 866-594-4150. 866-594-4150. What's caught your attention in the automotive world?
I've been hanging on to this article here from Automotive News. It's an April article, not too long ago. But I know you guys, when we came into the show today, I don't know if, I think Russ started the conversation, and I was interested in the answer is, hey, what was the new Top Gun Maverick movie like? And so it kind of got me reminiscing to think about things from that era.
Mm-hmm.
What is a car that you first think of from the era of Top Gun?
Knight Rider.
That's one, yeah, for sure. DeLorean?
Sure. The DeLorean
In 86? No.
has always...
Well, you're going to be so specific. Play along.
No, I can't. In 86, I was not thinking DeLorean anymore.
Okay.
I was thinking DeLorean
What year was Back to the Future?
85. but it was old.
That's
Hold on a
that's
second.
what I meant
Hold on
right
a
there.
second.
What
That's a
just
movie.
happened?
Hold on.
It's
Hold
a
on.
movie car.
I know. Hold on, Russ. Hold on a second. Shannon.
Did I do bad?
No. It's exactly that was.
That was great, guys.
What year was Back to the Future? You know I don't know.
No. I think
It came out in '85. They went back to 1955.
I'm saying you and I are on the same page here.
What was it? October? What is Back to the Future Day? October 21st?
I don't know.
I think it's October 21st,
Oh,
1985.
this is funny. I didn't realize this is going to go so well.
So when I think back, I
Well,
think
well,
of cars that are on the road and cars I grew up with because I was in high school. I wasn't
Okay,
thinking of
okay.
a movie car that was already 5
Well, I
years
had a
old.
particular article I wanted to read. That's why I was thinking of DeLorean.
Let's see where his article goes.
I will say now.
Nobody-
Now I see what you're saying.
See?
Okay, yeah.
I'm thinking,
yeah.
what other cars were in movies? Yeah, there were. Batman was out. There was a,
This is Russ. It's good. It's all good.
That was 89.
You guys know this.
I
though.
just know
that's the sad part of it.
The
I
day-
threw out a reference that
You're
I don't.
right. It was, wasn't
The
it?
day Batman came out was the day I got my driver's license.
The funny part of this to me is that I threw out a reference on a movie that I should never ever do. I should never throw out a reference on a movie expecting a particular answer because I don't know the facts.
Yeah, that is a good
So
point.
I had a hunch based on my experiences that I was close, and I'm good with that. Mm-hmm. So then I start off, and Russ goes down to the exact year
Look it up, Chris. Google it. Is it October 21st? Is it Back to the Future Day, or is it October?
because we were like, I'll get my DeLorean story out now, and Russ is most likely right.
I'm
and
sure.
that's awesome.
And I love the DeLoreans.
So
that'd be
DeLorean
one of my favorite
is
cars to
coming
own.
back in the near future, but not what you probably think you know, because DeLorean Motor Company LLC is a service and restoration shop that is in
Dallas.
Texas, in Humble, Texas, that
Uh-huh.
is specializing in restoring and parts and different things from the DeLoreans. He bought
And upgrading the
the
cars.
remnants and bought the name and all that stuff. But this story is saying that DeLorean Motor Company Inc. says it plans to unveil an electric model at the Pebble Beach Concours d'Elegance in August. The company last week released a teaser image of the concept showing the taillight and left shoulder of the car. The prototype is being revealed at the awards ramp 3 days before moving to the concept lawn on August 21st, the company said. The name of the new generation of the DeLorean will also be revealed in August. While it will be a brand new vehicle, the car will feature references to the classic DeLorean, such as gull-wing doors, CEO Jost de Vries told Automotive News. The company is searching for a North American factory site and aims to deliver the first customer vehicles by the end of next year. This company they're taking a good swing at it. They got 100 employees and it aims to employ at least 450 people when production begin. The public reaction has been spectacular, DeVries said. We have an awesome brand. Now we have to put on an awesome product. And here's the little teaser image that they've got there.
That is old news now.
Yes, it is.
And because they have new images out
Yeah.
and the
Yeah.
yeah.
But I've had this, and I wanted to use it before it got too old.
That's the first I've heard about it. I
So
knew
what'd
about
you-
the car restoring them restoring the.
So what'd you
DeLoreans.
learn, Chris, about back to our...
It's October 21st.
All
Yeah,
right.
exactly. And what year
Exactly. Oh,
1985.
did the movie come out?
I didn't get to that. I just
you do
looked
that?
up the sure.
You
I
do
just
it?
looked up the date of what is Back to the Future Day. Now I have to go back. And
You were the master searcher.
I know, but we got a call.
Let's do that instead, because we're beating this up pretty bad.
Keith, you are on the Under the Hood show. What can we do for you, Keith?
Yeah, I say I've got a 2004 Honda CRV, and it has a maintenance required sign on it, I guess it would call it, on the clusters. Is that something that I should be concerned about? Or
No.
is that something that, like, just comes up
Oil change.
on a...
It's going to come
Oil
up
change?
with
And that
time and mileage. There's different types of maintenance that's due to
Okay.
those vehicles. You just reset them. Chris comes up all the
All
time.
right.
He's real familiar with those lights,
Yeah.
aren't you, Chris?
Just reset those things.
Yeah.
Or ignore them.
But make sure you're following your recommended maintenance for the
There you
vehicle.
go, right
before,
there.
Don't just reset it, because was I supposed to do something when I reset
Maybe
that?
you forgot
Nah.
to change the oil, and it's way
It's not going to
past.
come on because of that. I mean, it's going to be time and mileage. It's not
Okay.
going to know that your oil's dirty because you could change it and it's still going to stay on. So you got to reset.
Awesome, man. One more question. It seems to burn a lot of oil, and the gas mileage is real bad. Would that have anything to do with that PVC valve?
Oh, we're just going to back up a little bit here.
Okay.
Let's go back to your first question.
How much is a lot of oil?
Probably a quart every tank and a half, 2 tanks.
Oh,
and it burns a lot of gas. So.
Oh.
It's all over. It's downhill from here. No. Yes, maybe.
That's what I'm afraid of.
Oh, yeah. I don't think a PCV problem is going to fix this. I mean, you've got a combination of a couple things going on there with the oil burning and the fuel burning and things like that. How many miles are on this?
155.
Okay, 155 on a CRV, that little engine. And, yeah, it could be at the end of its life. If you told me it had 70 or 80 on it, I'd say, hey, this is too early. We got to figure out what's going on here.
Mm-hmm.
Check that PCV system on that. See if there's oil in it. Now, the oil in those systems can also come from not just from a valve cover that's clogging up, but it can also come from so much blow-by in the engine that it just can't overcome it. If you take the oil cap off this engine and you've got it running and it's just blowing a fountain of air out of there, that's way more crankcase pressure than can be overcome by simple vacuum line that's trying to evacuate that system. That means failure in the engine by form of wear. Stuck piston rings is very common on engines today. Engines built in the last 10 years, they run with the oils we're subjected to and contaminants in gasoline. And when you put all this stuff together, it makes a bad package for the engines, and they can clog and get stuck rings. Carbon builds up behind them, things like that.
I want to just back up a little bit, too, because matter of fact, emailed Russ this week on a 09 Camry we've got with a maintenance required light on it. Do you have any other lights on the dash? Is there a check engine light or a service engine soon or anything like that?
No. No.
Okay. And Russ, is there any vehicles that use a maintenance required light versus a check engine light, or are they typically always going to be two different parallels?
It's pretty much the European cars, Japanese cars. They're going to come with a maintenance required light that's basically on a timed mileage, but they're all going to have a check engine light. Check engine light is an emissions light, and it's mandated by the EPA, Environmental Protection. So it comes on when its car is going to exceed emissions.
Is there anything that's telling? I mean, since he doesn't have that on this and is burning oil and gas, does that tell you anything?
Well, it tells me that it's not running so bad that the car thinks it's polluting more than it should.
Okay. I just
At
wonder,
some point,
could he be having an injector problem, that he's flushing out enough fuel that he's washed away the piston rings and burning extra oil?
That is a possibility as well. I would definitely want to at least, very
should be
minimum,
sending
read
check
the
engine light
data.
on.
Well, read the data and see if the fuel trims are right on the edge of being too much, if it's trying to take away all that fuel because it's dumping in there, or if we've got a sensor that has failed. If that fuel ratio sensor has failed, but it's still in its range, so it's not turning the light on, but it's down on the low end.
That could do it.
Oh yeah, that could do it.
Something he's definitely got to bring in.
You need to get this in and get it. You have some maintenance required.
That
Even
light
though
is
that
telling
light
you
is
the truth.
not in relation, you have some maintenance required.
Keith, thanks very much for the call. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we want to hear from you on the Under the Hood Show. 866-594-4150.
Are feeling ill? Don't want to spread it to your wallet? Call the Motor Medics now for free advice.
866-594-4150 from the Autotempest.com studios. All the cars, one search. This is the Under the Hood Show. Let's talk to Tom. You're on the Under the Hood Show. Tom, what can we do for you?
Hey, how you doing? Let me shut the tractor down so you can hear me better.
Okay.
There we go. Is that better?
It was perfect before.
Yeah, you're good.
Oh, okay.
Start it back up. Get
All
that
right.
field in.
What I have a 1955 Willys Jeep with an F134 motor. I converted it to a standalone 12-volt alternator system, and I lost the alternator about a month ago. And I didn't do complete troubleshooting. It turns out the battery is also bad because I've now lost second alternator. But here's the caveat in the whole thing. When I bought the second alternator, I asked about the L wire and the sense wire. Do they or do they not need to be connected up? From what I understand is a self-regulating alternator has to have that L wire connected up to excite it. And is there supposed to be a resistor in that line? Yes or no? And what size?
It depends on the alternator. You've got to.
It's a CS130.
Okay, the CS130, I have seen them work multiple ways, and I always read the little paper tag that comes with the alternator. Typically, we put several of these on with our Nordstrom's factory performance division. Put one on one of these Jeeps as well. The one we put on, we swapped out, and it said no connections required other than the main 12-volt field wire on the back of the alternator. And what happened is you would start the vehicle up, and it would not charge until you would rev up the engine the first time. You'd start it up, you'd get that thing up to 1,000 RPM, it would kick in, it would start charging, and then it would charge all the way down to 400 or 500 RPM with no problem. But it wouldn't kick in until that first time you revved it up. We have had other ones that had the main field wire on the back that runs to your battery to charge, and then it has a sense wire that comes from the ignition. So you turn the key on, and it would sense that there was voltage there and tell it, okay, the ignition's on, let's fire this thing up the next time it turns on. It's all self-regulating. That sense wire and the field wire and the terminal on the back, that's the way you could put a regular CS130 on anything, hook your big battery wire up to the back of it, then hook a small wire to your ignition source with a light bulb in there or a gauge, and then hook that last wire up to the battery terminal on the back. So then it wouldn't be a single wire alternator. Most of the time, a single wire alternator is exactly that. It's just one wire. That's all you need. When the engine's running, it's going to charge. When the engine's not running, it won't charge. But you always got to get it up over that. They're usually a minimum of 500-600 RPM to get the things to kick in. I like the ones that kick in at a lower voltage, but sometimes they tend to stay on and drain the battery down when they're off. That's why they want them to kick up at a higher RPM. But you really need to go by what the company that did the changeover. So you could go buy yourself you could come to Nordstrom's and you could purchase a CS130 alternator and then go buy a internally regulated kit. You take it apart, you put it in, and now it's one wire. No need 2 wires or 3 wires, just the single wire on the back. It's all about what company makes
you just answered most of my question there, because I bought a kit online from a Jeep antique dealership place, okay? So it's the front of the CS130. When I bought the new alternator, I had to take the pulley from my existing alternator and put on that, along with the front mount. It's the same alternator.
Yep.
It's just the way it mounts differently, but the pulley is bigger because the F134 engine runs at such a low RPM at idle. It changes the pulley speed. So now because I'm only running like at 600 RPM, it changes that alternator where it runs at a higher RPM at idle speed, so it'll charge. But everything that I've seen online, it says, if you don't have a resistor in that L wire, it's burning up the internal regulator. But what you're telling me, I can just get what you call just a standalone alternator, period.
Yep.
And I don't even need that L wire or the S wire.
Exactly. That's why they're wanting a little higher RPM at when you run it. Otherwise, it's not going to sense that it's should be charging. And then at low speed, if your lights are on and you're putting around town, it's going to go dead because it's not enough RPM. So, yeah, single wire alternators are typically just that, single wire. You can put them on a tractor, on a boat, car, whatever you want, just so that you have a means to charge it up. It's kind of like a generator for your house.
Yeah, and that's all I want.
Mm-hmm.
Right, and I mean the reason I went with the CS130 was because it's a little higher output. My intent is to put a winch on it and maybe some extra light down the road, and that'll give me enough output, I believe, to do that.
Yeah, that old CS130 was super common on all the Chevy pickups, vans, cars used them forever. They were on Camaros, and pretty much anything with a throttle body engine they were on. forever, and then they used them even later onto the multi-port Vortec engines, and they just were a very strong alternator. Had a few of them with fires. Shannon probably remembers a few of those.
Oh, yes.
The smaller ones, usually at the 100 amps. They just weren't enough, and people put a lot of stuff on them, and they get hot under the hood. So they upgraded those, but they haven't had a problem with one of those in a very long time.
But a bad battery will kill an alternator. Correct?
Very quickly. If you get one that's sulfated a lot, and so if you visit our partner's site, autobatteries.com, if you go to that site, there's going to be videos about batteries and charging and anything you could ever imagine with a battery is there. And they talk a lot about why in descriptions and videos and words how a bad battery can kill an alternator and how a bad alternator can kill a battery and why batteries go bad and things like that. So there's much more than we could ever explain on the show about batteries. Sometimes I go to autobatteries.com just to go, wow, there's something new, because battery technology keeps changing. But definitely, we've had a lot of people say, I need a new alternator, and they come in and I say, your battery's bad, you need to put one in. And they say, I don't want to put a battery in right now, and I'll do it myself later. And I say, well, okay, there is no warranty on this alternator if it comes back in and the field is melted. I can show you today. See how clean this is? It's not melted. If this comes back in and this is melted because you don't put a battery in it now, I'm not going to give you another one.
And the number of people that have over the years said, I've put 3 alternators in.
Mm-hmm.
Have you checked your battery?
I'm still jump starting it. They still jump start it. Well, it's fine when it's running, but then when I got to jump it, it's because your battery's bad. So, yeah, a bad battery will kill an alternator quickly.
Tom, thanks very much for the call. Good luck. 866-594-4150. Here's a call that came in to the Hoodie Hotline.
Hi, my name's Josh Marsh. I'm currently listening out of Wichita, Kansas. I have a 2007 Honda Civic Si, and right when I bought the car, I was taking the corner a little too hard and a little too slick out. Ended up sliding and curbing my car. Just ran over the curb with my my tire bent sideways. Well, it bent my tire or my wheel and my lower control arm under there. Well, I ended up changing out everything. My spindle, my hub, my lower control arm. I haven't messed with the tie rods. And I had my car aligned twice, and it still pulls. And the side that I wrecked it eats up the tire in like 6 months.
If a car is pulling to one side and it's eating up a tire quickly and you've replaced it, my first thought would be, well, maybe you just got a tire that's out of round, it's got a radial pull, the belt's bad or something, but you've swapped the tire and it still does it.
And he's had an impact.
So something has to be bent or they are not getting it aligned correctly. It's definitely out of alignment if you're driving straight and it's pulling and it's eating up a tire. And it's not just a tire causing it. A lot of people might say, well, it's a tire that's bad. Well, you've changed the tire. You've proven it by the tire getting eaten up and you put another one on. It still pulls the same direction. So swapping those tires around is going to do no good. You've got an actual bend in something causing an alignment issue. So if you bend to the same alignment place once or twice and it's still doing the same thing, I would go to a different alignment place. And you might look to a place that's a specialty shop, like one that says ABC alignment, and they specialize in just alignments and spring, like alignment, spring, and brakes versus, the Super Tire store that does tires and brakes and shocks and everything, and they're a big box store, and they're not specialized.
Yeah, they're going to have an electronic machine there that somebody's been trained to put it on, run it to specs, make fine adjustments so that the tires don't wear out. In this case, you need somebody that has got a familiarity with deeper suspension issues.
They look at the numbers and go, that's wrong.
Yeah.
And they know what's going to happen just by the numbers they're seeing, not by a computer telling them that they need to move this over a little bit and it's going to be within specs. Well, within specs, if it's right on the edge, is not enough.
My hunch is that you've bent the mounts on the suspension mounts where they mount to the body or to the cradle or to a lot of those cars. I'm just trying to remember how that Honda's, but they have things that mount right to the unibody. And if that unibody piece gets bent, you're going to be crooked. No matter what you do on the outside, you're still going to be crooked. And so they've got to get in that and just check it a little bit closer.
866-594-4150. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we want to hear from you on the Under the Hood Show.
Get your planner out right now and schedule your next radio appointment with the Motor Medics.
866-594-4150 from the Autotempest.com studios. All the cars, one search. This is the Under the Hood Show. If you call the show, you might win a hoodie thanks to our friends at Universal Technical Institute.
Universal Technical Institute. Visit uti.edu and think about a career. If you don't have a career right now, yeah, by all means, think about a career. There are a lot of jobs. There are people out there not working. Think about it. You could make good money.
You could afford gas.
Yeah, you could afford gas. You could afford McDonald's and Burger King even. You don't have to keep taking the money from your parents that is getting thinner and thinner all the time. You could go get a real job and be proud of what you do.
Mm-hmm.
How's that? Yeah, uti.edu. No, seriously. I mean, you could get there. I was watching a kid on the news. I think it was local. And too bad I can't remember it. But he had just won an award because of his drive to learn more about technology. And they're talking about the Mars rover. So I'm looking for Kayla LaFrance. I'm looking for her because she's in that program. I'm like, where is she? Because they had a Zoom call, and I'm trying to watch it. They kept flipping back and forth. It was our local news, and he had gotten an award for what he did. And I thought, this is the kind of stuff you get when you go to Universal Technical Institute, uti.edu. You can learn, you can excel in your field and really go far. And with job placement and stuff, you might not be just going to work for the first shop that wants you. If you're excelling in your field, you're in demand. You're gonna go far. So check them out today, uti.edu.
866-594-4150. Let's talk to Jay. You're on the Under the Hood Show. Jay, what can we do for you?
Well, good morning, guys.
Hey.
The best in the business is who I'm talking to right now. First off, I heard you talking about people wanting employees. I don't think there has to be a help wanted sign on your door anymore.
No.
Because everybody knows that there's not a single person out there not looking.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you put the sign up that says not hiring if you don't want it.
No vacancies.
Yeah, no vacancies.
Yeah. Well, those signs will go broke right now. But so Shannon and Russ, I got a question for you. It's on a diesel. It's a 3500 dually, and the 2015 Chevy Silverado. If I park the thing where the engine's facing downwards on a slight hill or slight incline, when I go to start it, it'll start right up and then stop. And then I'll have to turn the key for about 30, 40 seconds, and then it'll start up and run all day long. If I park it to where the nose is facing uphill, I'll get in the morning, start it, it'll start right up, and it'll have no delay in fuel getting to the, where it needs to go to fire. You have any ideas on that?
I still think it might be, I'm thinking of the fuel filter under the hood there and the way that thing works, and I've seen some do that. So we've got one, we just recently replaced that entire canister on it because it was leaking. But it wouldn't leak all the time. It would leak in our parking lot, depending on where we parked it. If we pulled up in one of our little driveways going into the shop, it may leak there. On the dirt, it wouldn't leak. Out front, it would leak. It just depended on what angle it was sitting on, and it was such a small leak that I think the surface tension of the diesel fuel, like you get on the top of water, was enough that it would just keep it from coming out. But if it got into a certain position, it would overcome that, and it would just leak, and it would run out. So when it would leak, we'd have to pump up the primer or cycle the key many times and crank it, and we could get it to start. And we fixed it by replacing that canister. It had a crack in it. Now, some of them, it can be the fuel filter itself. We've had a batch of fuel filters lately that were that had some problems with them. So when we changed the filter out, they were fine after that. There's also an air bleeder screw on them that is kind of famous for leaking on those. So I would definitely check that first. You may even just start with a filter. If you haven't put a filter on this thing in several months, you might just get a filter for it, put it on, make sure it's installed correctly and that you don't see any leaks there, and see if the problem goes away. It could be that simple.
And yeah, obviously I've replaced that, but not saying it wasn't bad or something when I put it on. This air bleeder you're talking about, where's that at?
Right on top. So the filter screws on the bottom, and the bleeder is right on the top next to the little air pump that fills up the that's used for bleeding the fuel system. That push-down valve, which is directly on top of the fuel filter.
Okay.
On
okay.
the Duramax.
Well, I'll give those things another try and see if it can't solve it. It's just kind of a weird deal. You know, I put it on the scope and it doesn't really say much. So it's one of those mysteries for me anyway.
What year was it, Russ, when they had the problems and this was more under heat and driving where the fuel lines would collapse?
Right around that 7 area, right as they came over the transfer case. And those, if you're listening now and you're driving one of those and you say, gets up around 90 degrees outside, I'm pulling my horse trailer or whatever down the road, and it just it falls on its face, and then it sits for a while, and then it's good again, and then it does it again. The lines would collapse, the rubber portion of them, where they'd go over the transfer case area when they get hot, and you'd have to replace the lines. And a lot of people solve that problem with either replacing the lines or putting a booster pump in, or both, because the starvation of fuel to that CP3 pump would wear it out and kill it. And a lot of times the pump just wearing out, that needed a little help with a little boost in fuel. But once you start, those were bad. When they start getting metal in the system from overheating and the starvation of fuel, metal would get there, and they wanted you to replace the entire system from the injectors to the filler neck and the tank, basically.
That's
everything.
Very expensive.
Yes, and it's pretty common. So you don't want to starve a diesel for fuel, because it's not like you've got 2 rubber gaskets that are, pumping your fuel that can be replaced. This is 2 pieces of metal form fit so tightly that they are making their own seal by pushing together and squashing the fuel out as it's going, like the ketchup packet under your hand,
there you go.
At McDonald's. It's doing that with 2 pieces of
liquid, basically
steel,
squishing liquid.
Yeah. So
and
you don't want any.
That's why a lot of the enthusiasts that are really trying to make those things run smooth and strong will use like an air dog or something like that to take any cavitation out of the fuel, make sure that they've always got a steady cavitation-free fuel pressure up to the system. And that's an aftermarket thing that a lot of people will install. Other companies make them too. That's just the first one that comes to my mind.
Jay, thanks very much for the call. 866-594-4150. Here's another call that came into the Hoodie Hotline.
I have a 2010 Cadillac SRX, and I got a headlight issue with them, and I know there's a lot of problems with that vehicle. It's had headlights replaced in it twice, the bulbs, to try to take care of this problem. The low beams put off very little light. The high beams are fine, but the low beams put off very little light. I've done some research on it, and I think it might be the headlight assemblies themselves. The lens on the low beam seems to be a little bit cloudy. The last set of headlights that were put in were xenon bulbs. Do you think that would take care of the problem?
In your headlight assembly, you got 2 things to worry about for reflecting the light of a very good brand new bulb. One is the outside lens, which you're getting your light to go through. It's like shining a light through a tinted window. It's not going to work if it's clouded or tinted or faded. You want to make sure that lens is clear. And the other thing is the reflector behind it. A candle, if you're looking straight at it in front of a black piece of paper, doesn't really give you a lot of light. Or a flashlight. If you've ever been a kid like me and you take the flashlight apart and you're staring at the bulb, you can stare at that bulb anywhere you want all day long and nothing. It's just a lit bulb. You stick that reflector on it, and all of a sudden 100% of that bulb is focused right in your eye on a spot, a couple inches around.
Don't do that. I mean, you
no,
shouldn't.
No, but that's what happens. We can just tell people what happened when we were kids. Now these things are burned paper. They got some great lights out there. But again, that reflector is key. If your reflector in that lens is worn out and cloudy, no matter how clear the lens is on the front, it's not going to function properly. So you need a good reflector. So if your light is fading on your Cadillac, you've replaced bulbs before, you've polished the lens, and it's still not as good as it used to be, either you need some glasses because maybe your eyes are wearing out, you got some cataracts, or it could just
Cadillac.
Could just be
Cadillacs?
Yeah, Cadillac.
Yeah. We need some new Cadillacs. A new Cadillac will fix the problem as well. But the reflector may just be wearing out, and the reflector, you may just have to replace the assembly. And you can get those. Now, headlights can sneak up on you and surprise you. For instance, Chris's kid has a car. It is I would call an affordable car because it's a 7 or 8. It's older. You would think, what's a headlight cost for a 7 or 8 Toyota used, right? Anywhere from $450 to $850 for a used one, depending on the level of quality.
Yes,
a
crazy.
used headlight. Now, the other model of headlight for the exact same car, and they're not interchangeable, is $50 to $80, and that's for a brand new one. So you get different ones for different cars. If this is a Caddy with xenon headlights, you're probably going to expect to pay several $100s for a good used headlight. But I could be wrong, because if there's 500 of them in the market because they're just not getting wrecked and they don't fade that often, the price is going to be lower. So
go to
always check
car-part.com and you can check it out.
car-part.com.
And another thing is that there are quality aftermarket replacements available for some of these items, and there's also some that are not very good quality.
Ooh, yeah.
And that will cause you problems. If his new ones that he put in were not OEM new or not of high quality,
don't go to Amazon and buy the more gooder brand or the better seer brand. The things, some of the names they come up with
we've
are
seen
hilarious.
some pretty poor xenon headlights come in, and we've
More
actually
gooder.
had a recent experience where a gentleman had bought a vehicle from us and used aftermarket headlight, and we got the headlight from him, so we're getting back to our manufacturer, but that particular headlight was causing a short in the CAN bus system that was causing all kinds of problems when they plugged in this headlight. And they took the aftermarket headlight out and put in an OEM original headlight, and all the problems they had been chasing went away.
866-594-4150. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we want to hear from you on the Under the Hood Show. 866-594-4150 from the Autotempest.com studios. All the cars, one search, Autotempest.com/hoodie. This is the Under the Hood Show. Let's talk to Mike. Mike, you're on the Under the Hood Show. What can we do for you?
Hey, guys. How are you doing?
Good. Mike.
Good. Hey, quick question. I've got a 2006 Honda Odyssey. It needs brakes. I have heard that it's good to get OEM brake pads on those. Do you guys concur?
No.
That was quick.
All right. Thanks, Mike. See you later.
Yeah, you're fine. You want a good quality brake pad. Don't just buy the cheapest thing you can find.
Of course.
A good set of brake pads and rotors are just fine. I have no problem putting on a non-factory brake pad on that. The only thing the factory ones are going to do are going to cost more money on that. Now you want to stick with factory type brakes. So if you've got a semi-metallic, you can use a semi-metallic. If you've got a ceramic, you want a ceramic brake pad. That's important.
Yeah, I think they were ceramic.
Yeah, you definitely want to stick with that for noise, for braking ability, for the dust level on them, all that stuff. You want to stick with OEM grade for sure. Otherwise, you can run into problems with wearing earlier, brake pulse from rotors that are warped, all sorts of stuff like that. Noise. Nobody wants the noise.
The noise.
And there's some people that have done comparisons. A lot of times people just go and they'll pick up something at whether it's O'Reilly Auto Parts or wherever it might happen to be that's of good quality. They go for their better brand, and it's just fine. We use them at our own repair shop all the time. And there's times that, though, you compare that to OEM, and the OEM is not that much different in price. And so I do encourage people to check often, but there's times where the price is so substantially different. There's no reason to spend that extra money on a 2006 Honda Odyssey. Good vehicle. It needs to keep on the road, but that price difference is just too substantial, and the quality is not that much different.
Mike, thanks very much for the call. 866-594-4150. Let's talk to Nellie in Arizona. Nellie, you're on the Under the Hood Show. What can we do for you?
Hi, I have a 2016 Hyundai Accent. It's only got about 109,000 miles. It's pretty good with maintenance. I try to do what I can here and there. It went into limp mode. So I read the codes, and it said it was my alternator. So I switched out my alternator, and I was good for about a week. And then it started going into limp mode again. So I started doing the basics. I checked my fluids. Everything seemed fine. I rechecked my alternator to make sure it wasn't draining my battery. My battery's good. My alternator's good. I started pulling fuses to see if it was anything like that. Nothing. Air filter. I kind of did everything I could for basics, but I don't want to go ahead and get a... Somebody was saying it could be my TCM. It could be my ECM. It could be my like so many other sensors, and even my oxygen sensor was mentioned. I was able to check my map sensor and my map, but I didn't come up with anything. So before I kind of get crazy and take it in, I was wondering if there's anything that would cause it, that you guys know, to go in and out of limp mode so weirdly.
If your battery was not staying fully charged, or the power was dropping off, your voltage, let's say, was down lower than it should be because your alternator was not charging, then yes, replacing the alternator could take care of that issue. But you may have another fault in there. Of course, you have to have something going on because you're still going into limp mode. But let's say you had a computer that was starting to have an issue in one of its circuits, and you can't see it. You can only feel this thing going into limp mode now and then. If you reduce the voltage to it because you have an alternator problem, or increase the voltage too much, it could cause it to flare up, especially in a hot climate. You know, in Arizona, you got the hot weather under the hood. Things can happen. So yeah. It may be that it was starting to fail. The alternator was weak. You put an alternator on it. It covered up the problem, and it worked fine for a little while. But now that problem is getting bigger. It could get quite a bit worse until it finally is just a no start. Sometimes we do that because we wait for the no start because it's easier to just track it down and find it. Because finding ones that are intermittent are very difficult and very expensive for us at a shop when we're looking at them in our own shop trying to find it, even when they're on our own cars. It's one of the most difficult things for us to do. So you may just have to wait. But I wouldn't replace any parts until you get an actual hard code that says this sensor's bad, and they can go to the sensor and test it and find it's bad. Because we found a lot of people, in the case of a computer, if that PCM is starting to fail, that powertrain control module, it may give you false codes for other sensors. And when you test the sensors test fine, but the actual computer is the problem. So, yeah, you're going to have to get in. And so not a lot we can do without it in a shop with a bigger failure, but we are going to get you.
I think Nellie and her level of detail, she deserves a hoodie. And if you move to South Dakota, you come pick up a job application.
Yeah, there you go. Sounds like she's been to Universal Technical Institute.
Yeah, my goodness.
Looking online.
Nellie, I'm going to put you on hold, and Doug is going to get your information and send you a hoodie, courtesy of our partners at Universal Technical Institute. Let's talk to Eric. Eric, you're on the Under the Hood Show. What can we do for you?
Good morning, afternoon, however it is. I have a 2014 Encore that is having a cooling fan issue. I am a mechanic by trade. I do heavy diesel, started in the automotive line years ago. On this past Sunday, wife and I went to a parade, came back, shut the car off, and I hear the fan running. An hour later, she goes out, battery's dead. It killed the fan staying running, killed the battery. I jumped it, stays running with the key off. So she had to do some running with it, came back, and I unplugged it and left it sit overnight in the driveway. Go out Monday morning on Memorial Day, plug the fan back in. No, it's not running. Okay. So I had to run up to the store, so I took her car, and I'm like, it seems like the air conditioning's not blowing too hot. And as I start driving, I said, wow, now it's getting ice cold. Oh, good. Now I know the fan's not working. So it tripped a P0480 code for that one. Fan relay control circuit. So I figured, okay, for giggles, I just went out and bought all 3 new relays, put them in the fuse panel, and it started working, but only like at a very slow speed. Cleared all the code out. The next day, she's driving to work. She says, "Yeah, check engine light comes on." And now it's tripping in 0481 for fan relay 2 and 3 control circuits.
Russ just made 2 fingers. Russ just made 2 fingers as you said 2. And I'm like, oh my gosh, he's tracking with you so far here.
Well, the system uses 3 relays, which are all computer controlled in that fuse box on the driver's side under the hood there. Those control the 3 speeds of the fan because they run through, there's 1 fan, 1 speed, basically, if you hooked it to battery direct, but it's controlled by a resistor that's built into the fan shroud. So those 3 relays work by either sending power directly to the fan or by running through the relay in parallel or series through resistors to try to get the speeds different. That's how you get your speeds in your fan. If it stays on all the time, the relays are usually melted inside, stuck together, causing it to stay on. If once you replace those relays, if now you don't have one or more of the speeds or any of the speeds, it's usually because that resistor has failed. You have to pull the fan shroud loose and pull the shroud back far enough to look inside of there with a flashlight sometimes and see if any of those resistor coils are melted. And typically we have to replace, when I replace those relays, I replace that resistor as well, and I also measure the resistance of the fan motor because a fan motor will melt those. We usually, a lot of times, we'll replace the whole fan assembly and everything. Stick around for a little bit here, and we'll go into a little more detail on the after show.
That'll do it for another hour of the Under the Hood Show. Until next time, you can find us at underthehoodshow.com. The Under the Hood Show is brought to you by Sturdivant's. All right, Eric, are you still there?
I am still here.
Okay. All right, we didn't want to leave you hanging there because it gives you everything you need, but also nothing at the same time. So what happens is a lot of times the fans are drawing too much current. That equates into relays that are getting too hot, even through the resistor, and it just kills the relays so the fans stay on all the time. That's the first symptom. So typically in our shop, what we end up doing is we buy a whole fan assembly. We get O'Reilly Auto Parts sells that whole thing. Yep, good deal. And that comes with a resistor.
I ordered one through Rock Auto.
Boo. That's all right. That's all right.
You guys don't like Rock Auto, huh?
No, it's not a problem. Some of they've got generally good things.
But here's what I like to do. We like to walk into
we
our,
like them. They don't.
I mean, we just like to walk into our O'Reilly Auto Parts store, buy the part, have it in our hands, and if there's ever a problem, we know that they're going to take care of it for us. That's why we like them so much. But
I actually called my local O'Reilly store and they didn't have a listing for it.
Oh,
and I used to work for O'Reilly a few years back.
Something's wrong because I buy these things. The one that's on the video, we bought that from O'Reilly Auto Parts. So I know they've got it. Something wasn't. I'd try again next time.
What video
was just
on the Under the Hood Show?
I have a Buick video about fixing this very same problem.
Okay.
So new fan, new relays.
He's a goocher.
That that'll take care of any resistance issue you got going on there. But now you have a new fan assembly and new relays, and it still doesn't work?
No. I've got the new relay. When on the Monday of Memorial Day, when I plugged it back in, the fan was staying off.
Right.
And I'm like, oh, okay. So I'm like, well, maybe a relay had stuck. So that's why I went to O'Reilly's and took the 3 relays with me. And one's got the massive lugs on it, which is the high power, high speed. And then the other 2 are identical for medium and low. But I replaced all 3, and then the fan was coming in, but it was like running at a very slow speed. And I've told my wife, I says, now while you're driving this thing, I said, you keep your eyes on that temperature gauge. If it goes anything past half, I says, you shut this thing down fast.
Toast that thing.
You know? Oh, God, yeah. I says, I don't need to be, having a motor put in this thing. Now it's got 130,000 on it. And the new fan is coming from Rock Auto. It should be here on Monday or Tuesday. And then I'll, pull it apart and put the new whole fan assembly in it. And, everything should be good from there. But, hopefully, I said, I won't have an issue after that. because I'm like, okay, everything's. Now the funny thing is there are two other relays that are right up next to the surge tank, but those don't really control the fan, do they?
No, there's more than one set of relays in there. Now you've got to look at the wiring circuit because some of them use 3 relays, some of them use 5. Some of them use the.
There are actually 5 in there. The 3 in the main fuse panel, and then there's 2 up next to the surge tank. In a little itty bitty panel, there's 3 relays in that panel there.
And that's on and off, and the other ones are on and low speed and high speed, I think it is. Then the other ones are controlling speeds through the resistor, how the wires are run through the resistor. That's why you need 3 of them in there.
Gotcha.
So any one of those can have a problem, and they're cheap. And when those fans fail and the engines get hot, you need to replace the engine. So you don't want to do that. I would put all the relays in for sure.
No, I definitely don't want to put a motor in this baby.
Well, thanks, Eric. We're glad you tuned in, and we could help you hopefully tune up.
Yeah, I definitely was glad you had the video out there. I enjoyed watching it, and it gave me some help and some insight. And it's like I said, we'll put the fan in it. We'll go from there. If I have any more issues, I'll contact you guys back and see what else we can discuss about this.
How was the parade?
The parade was very nice.
Okay, good.
You weren't in the parade with
That's
your
what
fan
I was
not
wondering.
working, were you?
At first, I was
No,
like,
I was just sitting there watching the parade.
You said you're in Detroit?
Yes, we're just outside Detroit in St. Clair Shores.
St. Clair Shores. Okay, I was from Livonia, so a little opposite direction.
That's where I grew up at.
Did you?
Yeah, I grew up in Livonia.
When? I mean, what year? Like what year did you graduate?
Well, I graduated in class of '81 from Livonia Stevenson.
Wixons. Do you know the Wixons? Rick, Kenny, Dave, Brian. We're on the after show, so we do this stuff.
Doesn't ring a bell with me.
Brian Wixon would have been class of '81. They're a little older. Hey, you'll remember this. Have you listened to our show before?
No, I haven't. This is the first time I've been with you guys.
So you were in Livonia back in '81. Back at that time, a few years before that, over on is it Farmington Road? There used to be an underpass there, and on top of the underpass, there was a Model T Ford truck that sat up there for years, for decades.
Right by the Orrery's Bakery.
Yes, and on the back,
I love this. This is great.
In the back of the truck, it said, there was a sign on it, and it said, "You'll find anything at Jan's." It was Jan's hardware store there. And then, but before that, it was Teleshack Trucking. That's what, on the side of the truck door, it said Teleshack Trucking. That was the guy that paved all the roads back in the 20s around Detroit.
Gotcha. Okay.
That is my truck.
Now,
really?
My dad is the guy over on, we had Evans Insurance Agency there on 5 Mile Road next to the paint store, Pittsburgh paint store. And we bought that truck to advertise, and then Jack Kirksey.
Your level of detail and memory is amazing.
I think did you go to Grant Elementary there in Livonia?
No, I went to Marshall.
Okay.
On the backside of the field where Stevenson was.
Yep, and all that's gone now. I think they've taken down a lot.
Marshall is still there.
Is it?
Marshall Elementary is there. Yep, it's not really an elementary school anymore. Now Dickinson Middle School, that's no more. That's gone.
And they tore down the one behind Grant, the old high school. I can't remember what they called that, by the park there, off of West Chicago or whatever. But yeah, that's a small world. But we've been trying to get back to the Woodward Avenue cruise.
I usually do go up there. I don't have a hot rod. I'd like to get one. I definitely love drag racing. In fact, in about 2 weeks, I'll be in Norwalk Dragway. Watching the NHRA. Nothing's better than 10,000 horsepower and nitromethane.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So do you get right in there and sniff it, or are you the masked guy, or are you just there to be close?
Oh God, no. You stand in a group of people about 5 deep, and as they fire the engine, you see this plume of green smoke belch out, and everybody runs for their life because they can't breathe, and then they come back in, as they rev it up, and they feel the ground shake a little bit as they set the clutches and that. And
you want just a little whiff of it, just not the full thing, just a whiff of it. It's like, I smell it.
I got forced to go up close to it by my friend that built my house. He took me to the Brainerd Nationals, and I'm not a drag race guy because we grew up on circle tracks, and I've told these guys before. I don't know why I haven't went back, but just the most amazing experience. My dad had lied to me for years and said that we didn't need to go to drag races. It's just a whole other experience, and it was amazing. So I can appreciate what you're saying.
Yep, it is totally awesome. I've been going down to Norwalk now for about 8 years, and the first time I went, I was hooked, and it was like can't stop going back.
Well, if you don't get your fan fixed, you're going to have your own hot rod, and it's going to be called an Encore.
That's right.
It's going to be melting down, so let's not do that.
All right, good luck.
Eric, thanks very, very much for the call. Let us know how it goes. 866-594-4150. I guess we're on the after show. I don't have to say that. But I do want to say this. Let's talk to John in North Dakota. John, you're on the Under the Hood show. What can we do for you?
Yeah, I was calling about my 2005 2500 Ram.
Okay.
Hemi. And it is, when you start it cold, it sounds a little bit like a diesel, a lot of clicking. But it warms up and it goes away. And I've talked to a couple guys that say lifters, and I've talked to a couple guys that say something about exhaust bolt.
Well, we'd have
to.
You want to listen to the specific noise. Sorry, I'm going to cut you off there, but if someone's saying that, it could be that you have exhaust studs that are broken and you've got an exhaust leak that when it's cold, everything is kind of open, and as it gets heated up, it expands back together again and closes that gap, and that can make a heck of a racket when they start. But that's going to be more of a where the mechanical noises are a little more they're just more metallic. They're a subdued metallic noise versus a hot air escaping noise. If you can kind of get that into your head with what you're listening. And now Russ is laughing about hot air escaping, but that's the two different kinds of noises. And how many miles are on the Ram?
About 160.
Because you also can get. Are the Chryslers, Russ? Do you see as many of the Hemis bad with like piston noises when they're cold?
No, but we see a lot of cam failures.
Yeah.
And the rockers, but those are constant noise. They start noisy, they end noisy, then they explode. But
that's what you want to hear.
But if you've got one that's quiet or is noisy, and then it gets quiet as it warms up, usually a lot of times it's a pretty good bet that it's exhaust noise, because that lifter thing is a wear issue, and it's usually for us. I don't see a lot of them getting quieter as they run and warm up.
And then when they start doing that, then they're putting metallics in the engine, and it starts wearing out other bearings, and you need an engine at that point.
And if you pull the drain plug out to change your oil, and you can see the sparklies pretty heavy in the oil once that starts happening too. But the exhaust, should be able to see some traces of black soot coming out around the corners of the exhaust manifolds where they're bolted up to the head.
If I said I had this noise and I wasn't sure which it was, and I brought it to your shop, could you tell
immediately? When it's cold, I could tell immediately what it was.
So that's one way for you to get that. Those guys that are telling you that, have them listen when it's cold.
Leave it there overnight. Let them start it up when it's cold, and they'll hear it.
Yep.
That help you out there, John?
My experience with it does, and I'm thinking, in the 90s I had a Pontiac 6000, and they had the 2.5. It was a great engine, but that lifter noise that came with those guys, that was all the time.
Mm-hmm.
That was.
Yeah, they'd usually get noisy, and then they'd fill the air cleaner up with oil. The four cylinders would, when they'd start getting bad. Yeah. They'd or else they'd break the exhaust manifolds too, and they could get exhaust manifold noise too. So it could get either one on those little cars too. But you need to get it to someone that just can help you listen to it, and they'll tell you for sure.
John, thanks very much for the call. Good luck. All right. Seems like that'll do it for the after show. I
don't know that we even need to go any deeper after listening to that conversation with Russ and someone from his hometown great. And the level of detail there. That was cool.
That's funny.
Yeah, that's
even better that he knew about it.
Yeah,
I set it by the bread store. Yeah, that's
awesome.
The one.
That's awesome. And that truck now has graced the cover of our local Motor Market magazine a number of years ago. Totally restored, meticulously restored by Russ himself. And the help of partners that he knows and friends that were able to do tasks for him, but most all of it was done by himself. And that truck is pretty special. And,
absolutely.
And so we're pretty cool that he's been able to get that back in his possession and get it all fixed up. survive a hurricane to get it brought home, and the whole story that
right.
goes along with it. So
That's right. All right, that'll do it for the Under the Hood show. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Don't forget to subscribe. If you watch the show on YouTube, if you're watching it now, subscribe because that changes. The more people that subscribe, that is important.
It's how people find it. When they give you those
Yeah.
suggestions on what to watch on YouTube, that's what they do it off of, is by subscribers. They don't care how many people watch. They want to know how many people subscribe. Isn't that crazy?
And Eric from Michigan calls the show
Because
he saw a video.
Yeah.
And so we like those connections coming from every direction.
Right.
Like a vortex of connections is
We
what
have-
we're looking for.
We have a call coming in right now.
We do?
Should we take it?
Yeah.
Yeah, let's do it. We're going to take it, Doug. You don't have to go anywhere. Hi, you're on the Under the Hood show. Who's this?
Hey, it's John again from North Dakota.
Hey, John again
Yes.
from North Dakota.
My daughter bought a Cruise, 14 Cruise. When we bought it, the owner said the only thing is they had a problem with a sensor. It was really dirty. We got check engine lights again within 2 days, another dirty one. We looked at the oil records, which were in the car. They've been changing the oil every 1,200 miles. So
1,200?
oil looked good when we bought it. Yes, trying to
Oh.
get that thing clean. That's the first clue. So
That
when we got
sounds
up
like
to
there's a
about-
reason. Something's not right
Yes.
there.
I tell you what, I should have looked further because when I changed the oil for her, it's a Cruise that's got that little 1.4.
Yeah,
You got
turbo.
The paper insert for the oil filter.
Yeah.
Well, when I top off, the plastic cap for that came off, but that thing was it looked like it had been there for 100,000 miles. It was plugged. Somebody had tried to take it out on an oil change with the pliers and had taken a corner of it out, but it took me half an hour with the needle nose pliers pulling all of that. It was just jammed in there and completely, blown up and soggy and whatever. So I changed the oil and the filter and checked it 500 miles later, and it was black. So we have a filthy engine full of sludge. How to clean that thing? People, I've read, use diesel fluid. I don't know. It's a newer style engine. I don't know what will be the best way to clean it.
I would use the Justice Brothers oil system cleaner. That's what we use in our own shop. But you're on the right path with these frequent oil changes. Put the system cleaner in it, run it for about 10, 15 minutes, change the oil and filter, go another 500 miles, do it. One of the biggest killers of that engine between timing the turbos, the bearings and stuff from the turbos are failures because of oil and getting dirty. But we have seen what you have going on with yours. They try to get the filter out, they break it, and they just leave it. And unfortunately, some oil change shops just do that. They're like, oh, we'll just leave it because it's broken. Like, no, you've got to tell them, look, we took this off and your filter's jammed up in there and broken. It needs to be fixed.
That's not good.
And you can buy that filter housing and replace it, in the worst case. But what you did is the correct thing. You got everything out of it. Now get the engine cleaned up. At least they were trying and they were changing the oil. That's better than not changing it.
If that happens, am I fixing it or am I yelling at them and making them fix it?
Well, no. If you take it to a shop and it breaks off, it's not supposed to. There was a problem with the filter.
So it's not the tech. It's not the place's fault. Your car was ready
They can't get it out. It's supposed to come out. You take the top off, you pull it out. It's supposed to come out. It's not their fault. Now, if they put one in and they jammed it up in there and they knew they had a problem, well, then
Could they have put the wrong part number up in there?
Oh, yeah. They could have put the wrong filter in it. They could have done something to it. And I'm guessing they probably put the wrong filter in it.
At some point?
Yeah, well, at the point where this one wouldn't come out, and they put the wrong filter in it, and they probably cramp. If you get it in there most of the way, you put that top on it. It's like a press. It's going to squash that cardboard in there, and it's really bad.
Yeah.
I've had some that were very difficult to get out. Our biggest thing with oil changes is people put the things on too darn tight. I've had oil filters that they didn't put any oil on the gasket, and then they cranked them down super tight. I've had ones that were metal that they've put the adapter on with a wrench and cranked them down tight. I've had oil plugs so tight that with a 2-foot breaker bar and 2 hands, you're really cranking on it to try to get it loose. Those are made to be torqued to a certain spec, and typically, if we get a brand new car in and it's his first oil change, a short wrench with one hand will easily take it loose. It's not going to fall out. So they don't need to be that tight. So people, if you're putting oil drain plugs in, you're watching this video, don't over tighten them.
Put your cordless tools away and get a little hand wrench.
Right.
Typically, they've got a rubber gasket, and the rubber gasket does the same thing as the filter. Doesn't let them fall out. So with yours, you're doing the right thing. Oil system cleaner in there. It should be available at most auto parts store. If you go to O'Reilly Auto Parts, they're going to carry a couple different oil system cleaners, and you could use that, run through the system, change your oil, put it in before the oil change, but when the motor's warm, run it for 10, 15 minutes, and then change it. I'd stay away from the diesel fuel and stuff like that. It's just too hard washing out the rings and things like that.
Yeah, and you might have to do that a few times if the motor's been neglected.
John, thanks very much for the call. Good luck. All right, now we're gonna end the after show. You're right.